So yesterday we talked about Europe and America in the 1920s, and today we're going to talk about the beginning of World War II. Hitler formed something that he called the Third Reich, or the Third Empire. Reich is spelled R-E-I-C-H. He promised the people of Germany prosperity and was made chancellor. And he became head of the coalition of Nazis. But there was no Nazi majority in the Reichstag. So today, the Reichstag is German Parliament, R-E-I-C-H-S-T-A-G. Today we're going to learn about what Hitler did to raise himself to power and to start World War II. This is History with Mr. E. Because there was no Nazi majority in the Reichstag, in March of 1933, Hitler and the Nazis burned the Reichstag building to the ground. They blamed communists in the German government, discredited the Communist Party, and gave the Nazi government the majority in the party. In 1934, Hitler assumed total control, total power in Germany. He named himself Der Führer, I can't really pronounce it, Der Führer of Germany, D-E-R, F-U-H-R-E-R, Der Führer. He named his government the Third Reich, or Third Empire. The First Empire was that of Otto the Great. In 962 AD, almost a thousand years prior. He believed that the Second Empire was that of Otto von Bismarck in the 1870s. The man who unified Germany and brought Germany to power. And then eventually that led into World War I. He believed that this was now the Third Empire, the Third Reich of Germany, and it would issue into world rule of Germany in the Fourth Reich. He took control of the army in 1938, and Hitler was a genius as a leader of men. He was a very domineering personality. People were in awe of him. They were afraid of him. They respected him. They followed him. They looked to him for leadership, and he promised the people that he would deliver economic safety, security, and power, military power, deliverance from their economic and political woes after the mess that they'd made from themselves after World War I, after being penalized by all of Europe after World War I. He used the unemployed people in Europe as his Nazi militia. He called them stormtroopers. Stormtroopers. He indoctrinated the youth of Russia. And called them the Hitler Youth. And they brought jobs and patriotism to Russia. I said Russia, I meant Germany. They brought jobs, and Hitler brought jobs and patriotism. He indoctrinated the youth, made the youth want to be Nazis, want to join the army, want to fight for Nazi domination. He rebuilt the economy by rebuilding that war machine, that military machine in Russia. Golly, I keep saying Russia, I mean Germany. Almost all German men became part of the German military. He also put men and women to work in the munitions factories. The factories that made weapons, because they were about to go to war. They were about to go and do some conquering, do some fighting, and they needed weapons of war, and he put them to work building those weapons. He pushed for expansion. He pushed for empire building. He proclaimed, "Today Germany, tomorrow the world." He hated the Jewish people and wanted to exterminate the entire Jewish race. He believed that Germans were the noblest race of people. That Jews, he believed, were the lowest and most despicable of all races. He believed that they were selfish capitalists that had worked to control the economy and take money from German people. So he persecuted the Jewish people through terror and domination. Through the government, he formed laws that had all Jewish shops in cities. Anything from a clockmaker to a violin studio to a bread baker to a tailor to all that stuff. All the Jewish shops were boycotted by the Germans, by the Nazis. He had all Jewish people removed from any political positions. He had the Jewish people stripped of their civil rights. Many Jews, the smart ones especially, and the ones who were able, fled Germany as fast as their feet could carry them. But by 1939, Jews were forbidden to leave Germany. Instead, he collected them up, started by dumping them all into giant apartment buildings where he put 4 or 5 families into one-room apartments called the ghetto. It was literally called the ghetto. That's where we get the word ghetto from. And it was in Warsaw, Poland, mostly. And then he began to exterminate them, force them into labor camps, to kill them in the streets, to experiment on them, to do all kind of horrible, terrible things, and to kill off as many Jews as he could kill. In Italy, Mussolini was in power, and he promised to bring back the Roman Empire, and the first thing he did to help bring back that Roman Empire was invade the African country of Ethiopia, which is in northern Africa. The leader of North Africa was a brave leader who supported his people and tried to keep them unified and tried to keep his country alive. He asked for help from the League of Nations, and the League of Nations got scared and ran away. They abandoned him and did not support him. His name was Haile Selassie. H-A-I-L-I-E, or maybe no I. H-A-I-L-E, maybe. You'll have to check your book, Chipito. Check the book, please. Or Riley, check the book and tell these other young people how to spell Haile Selassie. S-E-L-A-S-S-I-E. Haile Selassie. In May of 1936, Ethiopia fell to the Italian army. Germany left the League of Nations and built an army and took it into the Rhineland. The Rhineland was an area in Russia that had been that was a border area of Russia, and they were told that they were not allowed to have any military whatsoever in the Rhineland after World War I. So this was Hitler and the Nazis thumbing their nose at what they were told after World War I. They basically said, we're going to do what we want, and what are you going to do to stop us? We just built this monstrous, humongous, massive, brutal, fanatical army. They moved an army into the Rhineland. Germany and Italy became allies. and formed what they called the Rome-Berlin Axis, and formed the Axis powers. They believed that the world would rotate on an axis formed between Rome and Berlin. The Axis powers. At the same time, Spain had fallen into a civil war. Germany and Italy aided Spain in their civil war, and Francisco Franco rose to power as a communist dictator. Mussolini sent him troops, Hitler sent him weapons, and they rose to power. The communists also gave him aid from Russia, and Franco was a dictator from 39 to 75 in Spain. So Spain fell to communism for 36 years. In Austria, in March of 1938, the Germans invaded and took over Austria. And things were looking pretty grim in Europe. And Europe, the big four, America, America, France, Italy, and Britain could really do nothing to stop Hitler from doing whatever the heck he wanted, because they didn't want to get into another stinking war after World War I. Cost what? What did I say? 13 million people? 30-some million total in casualties? There was a part of Czechoslovakia that had belonged to Germany called the Sudetenland. Sudetnland, the Sudetenland. Hitler said that they were mostly Germans anyhow that lived there, and they were taking it. In September 1938, Hitler, Neville Chamberlain of Great Britain, Mussolini of Italy, and Daladier of France held a conference in Nazi headquarters in Munich, Germany. The Munich Conference, M-U-N-I-C-H, Munich. And Hitler, Chamberlain, Mussolini, and Daladier basically were forced. Daladier, Mussolini, who supported Hitler, but Daladier and Chamberlain were basically forced, without any Czechoslovakian presence whatsoever, to give over the Sudetenland to Hitler. They thought that this would appease Hitler enough that he would stop his conquest. They thought that this is what Hitler wanted and that they had made peace. Chamberlain even said that the conference in Munich was successful and they had achieved peace in our time. Peace in our time. Winston Churchill, that military strategist that screwed up in Gallipoli, knew better. He knew that the Nazis were still on the move. In March of 1939, 6 months after the Munich conference, Hitler moved the Nazi army, the German army, into Czechoslovakia and took not only the Sudetenland, but the entire country of Czechoslovakia. In 1939, August of 39, Hitler set his eyes on Poland. He signed a non-aggression pact with Stalin called the Nazi-Soviet Pact. Non-aggression meant that they may not be allies, but they weren't going to fight against each other. Stalin really didn't want into World War II. And so Germany invaded Poland on the 1st of September 1939 and destroyed the living daylights out of Poland. Killed off millions upon millions of Polish people. Destroyed the entire Polish intelligentsia, which is the smart people of Poland, the educated people of Poland. Murdered all of the military brass in Poland and just killed millions upon millions of people. On the 3rd of September 1939, the British and French were basically forced to declare war on Germany, September 3rd, 1939. World War II was underway, and we'll talk more about it tomorrow. Hope everyone's doing well. Ari, I hope you're behaving. Riley, I hope your warrior cats haven't lost any battles lately. Caleb, I hope your duck hasn't bit you, or your goose, or whatever that is that bites people. And Chipito, I hope you haven't had to beat up Jackson or Isabella or Lorenzo too much this week. Keep doing your best. I miss you guys. Take care, and we'll talk tomorrow about the early years of World War II.